absolutely everyone associated with organizing it was very clear that they wanted Professor Romila Thapar, also because just as war is too serious a business to be left to the generals, we came around to the idea that the media are simply too important to be left to journalists. And that what the media do affects society as a whole, and everybody else had better come in on the critique because it's affecting you, like it or not. A couple of other quick acknowledgements, of course. It's great to have Sujatha Madhu on this platform, whom I've known, I think, for nearly 3 decades, and the very first president, women president of the Delhi Union of Journalists. My old friend SK, who made me a member of this union 30 years ago. Anil Chaudhary, my unfailing fellow traveler in many occasions of getting oneself extremely unpopular and kicked out of innumerable institutions. And I'd like to make one more acknowledgement of a person who is not sitting up on the podium or close by like Anil. 30 years ago, when I began at UNI, a couple of 100 meters from here, what a different world it was. My colleague joining on exactly the same day, one of them has deserted and is not here. We'll deal with him later, Thapar. The other who is here is Ritamra Shastri. What a journey it has been since then. In 1980, Ritamra and I went together to UNI, to the complete shock and consternation of UNI, because when they had got our applications, somebody listed her name as R. Shastri, and they assumed that safely she was a male and probably of a caste. Now, here she showed up very, very female, and in UNI they had not even assumed that any woman would have the audacity to apply, right? So, the two great news agencies, UNI PTI, did not have a single woman recruited consciously, because she was not recruited consciously. The guy nearly fell off his chair when he saw Archie, as we call her. But they had an exam, they had to let her write the exam. They had no ground on which to turn her away. To be even more hard on them, Archie topped that exam. Now they had to recruit her. To tell you something, a little thing about how much the world has changed. Ritamra Shastri is today the chief news editor of United News of India, the first woman chief news editor of the news agency. Welcome. And no, I think that's a more difficult journey than mine. I would really say that. I had fun all the way. So, in fact, I forgot a little thing about what happened when she joined. Woman showing up first day in a news agency where nothing female had ever set foot before. So then they decided that they had to protect Archie. So she was shunted off to a tiny room called the Gulf News Service, which was run by someone whose age was diversely estimated as being between 75 and 106, and therefore considered safe. But within a few months, she had proved herself to be such an outstanding recruit that it opened the gates to female recruitment. And today, I think you and I might have more women journalists. Yeah, a hell of a lot. Yeah. So that's a great thing. SK tells me that when they hired this hall, you rented in 3-hour slots for your arrangements, chairs and stuff. I just wanted to tell you what I think is going to happen in 3 hours outside this hall, which you're not going to read about in your media. Not in any significant way, not to any significant extent, nor will you be seeing any thoughtful programs or discussions on it. What are the sort of things that happen in India every 3 hours? In 3 hours' time, 513 children will have died of malnourishment in this country. In 3 hours. Many times that number will enter grade 3 and grade 4 malnourishment. In 3 hours' time, 6 Indian farmers will commit suicide, and anywhere between 40 and 50 will attempt it unsuccessfully. 275 farmers will have quit cultivation in 3 hours. Because it's 91 an hour if you take it out. And that's derived on the basis of the dropout rate between 1991 and 2001 if you check the 2 censuses. All these things will happen within the 3-hour slot. And also, within the 3-hour slot, the government of India will have written off 171 crores for the richest people in this country in terms of excise duty, customs duty, and direct corporate income tax in 3 hours. I'm not talking about subsidies. Those are huge. You haven't got all night and I haven't got all week. Because we're going to subsidies, that's a hell of a lot more. I'm just talking about the write-offs. The write-offs in terms of excise duty, the write-offs in terms of customs duty, and indirect corporate income tax. So that is what will happen in 3 hours. Now, having come here before you on the media, let me begin by defending the dominant section of the Indian media against a charge repeatedly leveled at it by excitable left-wingers. I would like to challenge the proposition that the Indian media are pro-establishment or pro-corporate or pro-business. I believe this is not only factually untrue, it is also analytically unsound. A look at our dominant media, the structures of ownership, the output and content, the levers of control, the linkages between different sectors of industry, tells me very clearly that the media are not pro-establishment or pro-corporate. They are the establishment. They are the corporate world. They are the cutting edge. They are the cutting edge of these worlds. They go much further. They rush in much more boldly where the government of India would not enunciate the policies it has in the tunnel. The media will shout and scream for it. They're far more aggressive than either the corporate sector as a whole or the government as a whole. So we are talking, and by the way, if they are not big business, I don't know what the heck they are. We are talking about hundreds of billions of rupees annually done over this country at phenomenal profits, even at a time where the media in the United States are collapsing. By the way, it doesn't stop them from also laying off journalists like the media in the United States. Now, if you look at every year, the media puts out these power lists. There's only one that interests me. No, it's not the one that I want. And that is so subjective, I could just be jettisoned next year without notice. But the power lists of the 50 most powerful companies in the country, I'll come back to this at the very end, because it's a very core part of some of the arguments I'm making. The media, the power list of companies in this country includes several companies which we all recognize as media companies, but it also includes a hell of a lot of other companies we do not recognize as media companies, but which are very, very important media players in a variety of ways, and who are big time, in fact, media players. We'll come back to that. Because if I start reading you the list of non-media interests that media companies have, I started last night and reached 180. We don't have the time for that. One intriguing manifestation of media power is the enforced silence on what has been happening within the media since September 2008. Since September 2008, 3,000 journalists have been sacked. 3,000 journalists, cameramen, assistants, and other desk jobs have been lost in just a handful of media groups. Okay? In Maharashtra alone, that was 450 media jobs in 2009 from 3 television groups and 1 newspaper. These are extremely sketchy figures because unfortunately, Pandey, we do not have the kind of unions and union networks across the country that we did in the 1980s when we could easily calculate the number of jobs lost. Now we can't. It's ringing up your friend in Sakal who says,